Who could shut down the entire internet? Not a hacker, not a government. The answer, a few hundred kilometers of cable and one ship with the right kind of anchor. This sentence you're reading, the message you sent 5 minutes ago, the payment that just cleared on your card, none of it traveled through the clouds. It traveled through the bottom of the ocean. And most of those veins running across the seafloor belong to a handful of companies you've never heard of. So what if they all belong to one? Because then the real question stops being, can the internet go down? It becomes, when does that one company decide to pull the plug, and why? The internet doesn't float. It doesn't bounce off satellites like some sci-fi fantasy. About 99% of all intercontinental data runs through physical cables lying on the ocean floor. Not Wi-Fi, not the cloud, wires. Actual physical wires, thinner than a garden hose, wrapped in steel and rubber, dragged across mountains you'll never see, at depths that would crush a submarine. This business was run for decades by telecom giants and state monopolies. Slow, expensive, a game only a small club could afford to play. Then something nobody expected happened. The companies buying up this infrastructure weren't telecom companies anymore. Google, Meta, Amazon, Microsoft, names that already control what you search, what you scroll, quietly started buying the physical pipes your data swims through, not renting, owning, laying it themselves. Tech giants didn't stop at software. They went and bought the ocean floor. So now it's not just what you're watching that they control. It's the road it travels on to reach you. How does a cable actually get to the bottom of the ocean? First, the route is planned, avoiding earthquake zones, shipping lanes, underwater canyons that could snap a cable like a wet noodle, negotiating permits with dozens of governments. Then the cable is built. Hair-thin glass fibers, wrapped in steel armor and waterproof layers, built to survive shark bites, anchor drags. A single cable can stretch over 10,000 kilometers and cost up to $1 billion. And here's the striking part. There are only a handful of ships on Earth capable of doing this. The entire cable-laying industry runs through 3 or 4 major companies. You can't just hire a random shipping company. There's no Uber for underwater fiber-optic surgery, and nobody's leaving a 5-star review down there anyway. You need the ships, the engineers, the government relationships, decades of institutional knowledge. When a tech giant wants its own private cable, it's not entering a competitive market. It's joining one of the smallest, most exclusive clubs in the world. And the moment you own the pipe instead of renting space in it, you stop being a customer of the internet. Sounds like a stretch? It isn't, because that club is already shrinking. What if all those cables belong to one company? One name, one boardroom, one switch. That company controls not just speed, it controls existence. Want to run a rival news outlet in a country that annoys the wrong government? Your traffic mysteriously experiences technical difficulties. No censorship needed, just being slow to fix the cable. Plausible deniability, served fresh at the bottom of the ocean. The price is theirs to decide too. Every bank, every airline, every hospital becomes dependent on a toll road with exactly one booth, and the operator knows you have nowhere else to go. But the scariest part isn't the money, it's the listening. Whoever owns the physical cable can, in theory, tap into your private, encrypted data. One company, one point of failure, an incredibly convenient place to plant a listening device. No hacking required. Just own the road everyone's secrets happen to drive on. After all, nobody needs to bug their own house. The house is already theirs. This is still a what if. But the frightening part is, small versions of this monopoly have already happened, and the world felt it. January 2022, Tonga. Early morning, a volcano erupts near the island nation. The blast is so massive it instantly severs the single undersea cable connecting the country to the world. Not throttled, cut. Overnight, an entire country goes digitally dark. Banks can't process transactions, families can't reach relatives abroad. The government coordinates disaster relief with satellite phones, like it's 1995. Repairing the cable takes weeks, because the ship that can fix it has to come from the other side of the planet. Cables in the Red Sea have been damaged repeatedly in recent years, some blamed on anchors, some on regional conflict. Cables in the Baltic Sea have gone dark mysteriously, fingers pointed at sabotage, NATO. Warships began patrolling. These are all real events, and even spread across multiple owners, multiple regions, they still caused global chaos. Now erase the word multiple. Picture every one of those cables under a single company's control. One act of sabotage, one terrible boardroom decision, no longer inconveniences one region, it collapses the planet's financial system in the time it takes to eat lunch. Banks can't clear trades, hospitals can't access patient records, markets freeze, and there's no backup because the backup was owned by the same company that just went dark. All that's needed is one decision, or one mistake. So is the way out satellites? Starlink, Kuiper, OneWeb, a real development, especially for remote regions with no cable access at all. But it doesn't replace the cables, it just adds another layer, one that's also largely controlled by one man's rocket company. Swap one company owns the cables for one company owns the satellites, and congratulations, you've rebuilt the exact same monopoly with better marketing and a rocket launch live stream. At least this time there's nice music playing while the internet goes down. Because the truth is, undersea fiber is still cheaper per gigabyte and far higher capacity. Satellites are the emergency generator, cables are still the power grid. The real safeguard isn't shiny new technology, it's redundancy. More cables, more owners, more competing companies. One point of failure, one boardroom, one government pressure campaign can't take the world offline. Because the real question was never really about cables, ships, or fiber optics. It was about whether the world's most critical infrastructure quietly falls into fewer and fewer hands while everyone's too busy scrolling to notice, until someone, somewhere, decides to find out what happens when they cut the cord.